Good evening, and welcome to the next installment of Meet the Leaders. I am your host, Jerry McPherson, and I have the privilege to serve as Director of Economic Empowerment for the Greater Phoenix Urban League. Tonight, we got a very special broadcast. As you all know, unless you've been living underneath a rock or just simply don't have access to a cell phone and never gave out your phone number, tomorrow is Election Day. I know I've been inundated with text messages telling me who to vote for and when to vote and how to vote. Well, don't worry, those days are about to be behind us. We just got one more day, Election Day tomorrow. Cast your vote. Put our elected officials in order that we believe should be running our state and local government, and this is your opportunity to do so. Tonight, we'll be talking with Avery Xola, Voter Education Manager for Clean Elections. He's going to join us to tell you about what's on the ballot, how to vote, where to vote, how to find your polling location, and what to do if you get any challenges into casting your vote. We're here to provide you with all the resources you need to make sure that you go out and do your civic duty tomorrow, which is filling out your ballot and dropping it off, and/or showing up, having your ballot printed and voting in person. However you want to do it, it is your civic duty to do so, and we need you to do that. Arizona and cities and counties all across the country simply have relied on other people to make decisions for them. This is your opportunity to help influence that and elect those officials that you believe should be leading our state, local, and even our federal government. Before we get started, just a couple of housekeeping items. Please like, comment, share. Let the world know that you're with us. We're going to, if you are not yet voted, go ahead and grab your ballot. Keep it handy, and we'll go through it together to let you know what is on it and to clarify any misunderstandings or confusion that you may have. We'll do our best to answer your questions. And again, if you got a friend or family, so there are roughly 4.2 million registered voters in Arizona. And as of November 1st, 1.4 of those people have submitted their ballots. That still leaves roughly 2.5 million people who have not yet turned in their ballots. So if you haven't turned in your ballot, or your friends or your family, tag them, send them a text message, get them to the broadcast. We're going to look through this together and make sure that we do our civic duty. One other item to share, our Greater Phoenix Urban League Young Professionals, the award-winning 4-time Western Region chapter of the region, is hosting their annual Urban Expo. It is taking place Saturday, November 19th at the Footprint Center from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. We are looking for vendors. We are looking for vendors to come out and join the event. There will be workshops happening all day, from first-time home ownership to strategic moves for existing homeowners, investing in multifamily properties and commercial real estate, and so much more. If you are interested in attending this free event, you can visit urbanexpophx.com for more information. Without any further ado, I would like to introduce the president and CEO of the Greater Phoenix Urban League, Mr. George Dean. George, welcome to the broadcast.
Thank you. Good afternoon, good evening, I should say, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Meet the Leaders. We are almost home at last, after all of the campaign ads and signs and everything that you've seen for almost the last year, for at least the last year, and certainly in these last few weeks. It's signs and advertising all over, and rallies and all of these things taking place. We're now early tomorrow morning, beginning at 7 a.m. The polls will be open for those who rather vote in person and not use the early voting. And as Jerry said, I think over 1 million of us Arizonans have already voted, but there's still more to come. And this is a very, very important election, and we thought that it's very, very necessary to get some last information out to those of you who might be watching this program this evening about voting and the election and so forth. We have heard stories about the Stop the Steal and the big lie that the last voting in 2020 was fraud and illegitimate and everything else. But For those of you who keep up with us, you know that a couple of months ago, we had Stephen Richards, the county recorder, on to talk about how the election was probably the most fair and safe election that we've ever had in Arizona. Took place in 2020 and so forth. And tonight we're very pleased that we have Avery Xola, the voter education manager for the Citizen Clean Election Commission, that's been around now for a number of years, and he's going to tell us more. So stay tuned, listen, and if you haven't voted, be sure to go tomorrow morning. And there are voting locations all over the valley, so make sure you find one before. I think it's 7 to 7 or 7 to 8? Maybe it's 7 to 8. If not, whatever it is, go early and vote. Make sure you get that takes place. And with that, Jerry, I'll turn it back to you, and let's get Avery in and have him.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, President Dean, for your pivotal words and leadership to the Greater Phoenix Urban League over the years. So as mentioned, we'll be having Avery Xola, voter education manager for clean elections. And President George Dean mentioned the timing for the election polls to close. We'll go through that a little bit later on. And Avery, if you're ready, I'd like to bring you on. I would like to introduce the voter education manager for clean elections, Mr. Avery Xola. Avery, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, President Dean. I appreciate the invite.
Oh, okay. No, as mentioned, well, not yet mentioned, Avery is a fellow Flynn Brown alum that was in this year's cohort, so I got a chance to work closely with Avery over the past couple of months. I can tell you, superbly educated, informed, and passionate individual, and I'm just thankful that you are available to us, to the Greater Phoenix area, lending your time, energy, and your expertise, particularly working in the field as noble as it is, and we need more folks like you involved in the process. And you and I had this conversation. It's not just about running for office. Right. It's all of the ancillary tasks and roles that go alongside that, and being a part of clean elections, serving in the capacity that you do, participating and leading workshops like this. This is all a part of the process. So right. Thank you so much, and really express our gratitude. But if we can't just introduce the audience, I'm sorry, George, did you have something?
I was just going to say to Avery, as you begin, first of all, explain the Citizen Clean Election Commission.
Yes.
A lot of folks are not familiar with your work and so forth.
Absolutely.
So I would ask if you would start with that.
Okay. Yeah. And Jerry, I'll wait on your cue, so you just let me know.
Well, no, take it away, Avery. If you can, just tell the audience a little bit about you and the work that you do.
All right. Again, I appreciate it, and I feel the same about your passion for public service, Jerry. In Flynn Brown, I stood on a lot of the stuff that you said, and I really appreciate your contribution to the program. I'm Avery Xola, the voter education manager for the Arizona Citizens Clean Elections Commission, not to be confused with another organization that's out there right now called Clean Election USA. They've been accused of doing some voter intimidation and some things like that. That is not us. We are a state agency. We are nonpartisan, and we are the only state agency mandated to do voter education. So we do voter education, campaign finance enforcement, and also we run clean candidates, which avoids like dark money and things like that. But we were created off of a voter initiative in 1998. So voters wanted some more accountability and transparency in politics, and then they put us on the ballot, and voila, our agency was born.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much, Avery. So we have a presentation that Avery was so kindly to put together. If you are out in the audience, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat as we are going through the presentation. This is going to be conversational. It's going to be informative, but it will, be sure to keep it conversational as well. And if you have a question, we'll look to answer them in real time. Typically wait until the end of the broadcast to do that, but we want to make sure we're getting your questions answered. That is first and foremost, which is most important, to answer any questions that you may have. And secondly, then you got to do your duty and take your ballot to the polling place, whether or drop box, to make sure your vote gets counted. So I'll go ahead and bring up the presentation. Avery, I'll just let you take it away.
All right. And so, like Jerry mentioned, we're going to do a high-level overview of what's going to be on your ballot for the 2022 midterm. Again, Arizona Citizens Clean Elections Commission. We can go ahead and do the next slide. All right. So why vote? There's a lot of reasons, but I just wanted to hone in and kind of remind everyone of why we're doing what we're doing. First and foremost is how we participate in the democratic process in the United States. Voting is how we get our representation. Candidates and politicians listen to two things. They listen to votes and money. So if you don't have any money, then you better be voting. Voting is good for funding in your community. If you have certain things that you would like to see in your community, reaching out to your legislators, to your city council people, that's how you get it. And they generally listen to people who put them in office. Education, healthcare, immigration, infrastructure, our economy, veterans, the elderly, all of that is affected by our vote. Voting decides how our taxes are going to be spent. We vote to defend our beliefs. If you have any ideals or beliefs that you think that society ought to operate on, well, voting is how you get that out there, that information out there. And of course, you got to remember all the people that came before us. There's soldiers, there's civil rights workers that have given their life, literally given their life. Some have died for our right to vote, for this privilege. And lastly, when you have midterms, generally midterms have low turnout for a variety of reasons. But when you have a low turnout, that means that your vote is more impactful. So it makes even more important to vote in primaries and midterm elections such as this. You can go to the next one. Thank you. So as you can see, if you look at this, you see the election started way back in September 24th. They were already sending ballots out to our men and women overseas and their families with the UOCAVA ballots. The most important date on here right now is going to be that November 8th date. And that's tomorrow. So the polls are going to be open from 6 a.m. in the morning all the way till 7 p.m. in the evening. And as long as you are in line at 7 p.m., you can stay in line and vote. So if it's 7:07 in your line, you stay in line and you're still permitted to vote.
Right. Make sure you're in line by 7 p.m.
Yeah.
What's
on the ballot? Tons of stuff on the ballot. And we have a U.S. Senate and U.S. House of Representatives. What's important about those two offices? That makes up our Congress. So you see a lot of stuff on the news about Congress this, Congress that. Well, those offices will represent us in Congress. So those are very important seats. We're going to elect a new governor. We're going to elect a new Secretary of State. There's the Attorney General. The Attorney General is important for equitable policies and civil rights in the state. So you want to make sure the Attorney General shares some of your beliefs. State Treasurer, that's who invests money in the state and invests our taxes. Superintendent of Public Instruction, this person will be in charge of all education all over the state. We have a mine inspector because we do still have mines in Arizona. We have a corporation commission. So if you have a issue about the utilities, railroad services, or corporations, you can reach out to the corporation commission. They could actually help alleviate some of this, or they can advocate on behalf of the public. And their positions are up for election. The state legislature, all the seats in the state legislature are up for election. We also have a judicial retention election this year, and that is how we retain or do not retain judges. I'll get into a little bit more about that later. And we have tons of ballot propositions on the ballot this year. Thank you. So we have, if you go to beballotready.vote, which is Maricopa County's voter information website, you can actually go and download a sample ballot. And why am I showing you this the night before the election? Because you can actually download a sample ballot of what your ballot will look like. And you can kind of research what's on there before you head to the booth. So you don't want to go into the polls and, potentially hold up the line or get in there and not have time to look up some information. Go ahead and go to beballotready.vote, download your sample ballot, and you can see everything that you will expect to see on your live ballot once you get to the polling location.
Right.
Go ahead, Jerry.
Avery, just to interject a bit, I think it's important that we remind folks, you can print out a sample ballot, fill it out at home, and bring that with you into the election booth, right?
Yeah, you're right. Correct. And I'm going to just put this in the chat here just for the sample ballot because I think that's important. All right. Okay, we can go to the next slide. Thank you. Voting on election day. So you're going to have a few options. You can go to your polling location. If you go to your polling location, then that has to be specific to each individual voter. So you are going to be assigned to go to a polling location. Outside of that, you want to go to a vote center. A vote center, as long as you're within your county, you can go to any vote center. So ideally, you probably want to go to a vote center, but before you go to a polling location, a polling place, make sure that it is in your precinct. And I'll share about some ways that you can go and check in a second. Also, you want to make sure that you have the correct ID when you go. Anytime you vote in person, you have to have the correct ID. Here's some mistakes that people make on ballots. I made some of these. You can do something called an overvote. This is when you may select more votes than you were supposed to. That doesn't mean that your vote won't count on any of the races. It just means for that particular race. So what is an overvote? Let's say it says pick 2 and you end up voting for 3. Okay, so that race won't count, but the rest of your ballot will still count. So and then you also have undervoting. Undervoting occurs when it says pick 2 candidates and you only pick 1. Well, that 1 candidate will count, and obviously it won't fill in any other candidates, and then your rest of your ballot will count. So that's undervoting. You want to use a black or blue pen when you're voting from home, or you're filling out your ballot at home, and you want to, before you put it in the green envelope, you make sure the ink is dry. That's just so it won't smudge and mess up the rest of your selections. Do not use red ink, because red ink, the tabulation machines cannot read red ink. So do not use red ink. If you damage your ballot and let's say tomorrow you want to go and get a new one, you could do that. You can go into the polling location or to a vote center and they can reissue you a new ballot. So of course, there's not enough time for you to request a new ballot for them to mail it to you. So just go directly to the vote center tomorrow and request a new ballot, and they can reissue you a new ballot right there. That will cancel your previous ballot, and then they'll reissue another one, so you only get to vote once. If you try to return a ballot without a green envelope, the affidavit envelope, your vote will not count. So if you lose that green envelope and you try to put it in a regular envelope, that vote's not going to count. You're going to have to go ahead and go to the vote center, polling location tomorrow, and again, request them to reissue you a ballot. What else? And if you're going to drop off any ballots for anyone, they can only be someone from your household, a family member, or unless you're a designated caregiver. And that goes back to that ballot harvesting law. So as long as you're I say as long as you're within that household or you're a caregiver or a family member. So
sure.
Okay.
All right. And so finishing your ballot. And what do I mean by finishing your ballot? A lot of times you look at your ballot and all the familiar faces, so to speak, are going to be on the front. All the stuff you've heard about on your local news and the paper. But on the back of the ballot, this is where a lot of the local offices are. This is where your retention election for your judges are going to be. And this is where the propositions are going to be. So you want to make sure that you fill this out because our local vote has more of an impact. Our local candidates can impact us quickly and more efficiently sometimes than the state government or the national government. Local officials have the power to give us equitable laws and policies. The down ballot candidates, the candidates you see on the back of that ballot, you'll see them again. So a lot of the candidates that you see on the front of the ballot going for state office or legislators, once upon a time they were judges or they were city council or they were on a lower office. So you voting on these offices early, you could either put them out of the election business, or you can support them and move them up. So you will potentially see some of these people again. When it comes to local elections, again, our votes matter the most. And if you want to have a holistic, pure, wholesome election experience, you want to vote local because local races are going to be less likely to be influenced by corporations and lobbyists and interest groups.
Sure. Yeah, and just want to emphasize a point, so thank you for sharing that, Avery, but vote down ballot. I'm looking at my ballot now and it is, long. It's a lot of issues, a lot of propositions. Judges take up the whole back page. So, we can't emphasize enough, to make sure you're voting down ballot because those races count too.
Absolutely. Thank you. Judicial retention election, again, so they have a judicial performance evaluation tool. It's located at azcourts.gov/JPR. What that is that it is a way for us to evaluate our judges in our counties and municipals and state judges. And so what you do on the back of your ballot is going to have a yes or no vote for each judge. If you look on the judicial performance evaluation at azcourts.gov or in your publicity pamphlet that is given out by the Secretary of State, which is also available online by the Secretary of State, it will give you the ratings of each judge. It'll tell you their courtroom management skills. It'll tell you some of their, insight, different things about the judges where you can grade them. and then at the end of the day, you'll be able to retain them or not retain them. And so, like if some of them are rated below 80%, maybe you might not want to retain that judge, or maybe you do. So it's important to look at that, because the evaluation is made up of comments from litigants, jurors, their peer judges, attorneys. So you're really getting a real picture of how that judge acts in court. So please pay attention to that. I've heard that some people say, I just pick no on all the judges, but don't do that, because you might be getting rid of a judge who's actually doing what they're supposed to do. So take your time on that. And the information for that is on azcourts.gov, again, /JPR, or in the publicity pamphlet. I think on page 19 on the publicity pamphlet is where it starts to talk about the judges.
Avery, if I can ask you, like, generally speaking, what is the range of score for these voters? So, like, what is, and from your familiarity with it, like, are we seeing 0 all the way through 100, or is it more like 60 to 80 sort of thing?
No, that's a good question. So the lowest score I've seen this year, it was in the 80s. It was 80 something percent, like maybe 83%. Highest, of course, is 100. Some judges you'll see will have 99, 99, 99. But you also have to look in two areas. They have an area where they have the attorneys, and then they have an area where they kind of have like everybody else. So like the litigants, the jurors, and people just coming in, witnesses, things like that. So if you look at both of those, that's how you kind of get an idea of how your judge is. So basically what I'm saying is the peers evaluate the judge, and then the customers evaluate the judge. So the people who the judge services will evaluate the judge as well. And that, like I said, that's all going to be in your What's on My Ballot book right here. And I believe it's on page 19, and you'll start to see just a little, it tells you about the judges and their ratings.
Got it. Or you can go to azcourts.gov/JPR to get that same information, correct?
Correct. Yeah, that is correct.
Okay.
Yeah, see, so like you can't see it, but it gives them a rating on legal ability, integrity, communication skills, judicial temperament, administrative performance. See, so very important to look at that before you fill that out on the back.
Got it. All right. So now we'll go through a few of the propositions that's on the ballot, and we asked Avery just to give us the high level, put it in layman's terms, what's the plain English of these proposition measures, so you can be better informed on how and what's on your ballot and how you think you may want to vote.
Absolutely. So first, let's go for this Proposition 128. The 100s are going to be constitutional amendments. That means that this will actually go into the Arizona State Constitution and amend that Constitution. This particular proposition, it allows the legislature to amend or repeal voter-approved ballot measures that they feel are unconstitutional and are invalid. What does that mean? That means that if we as voters put something on the ballot and the legislature says, well, that goes against the Constitution, or they don't like it because it's invalid in some kind of way, some kind of policy, they can remove it from the ballot or repeal the vote. Proposition 129, again, constitutional amendment. The legislature has to do this already, and what they have to do is when they put out a ballot measure, it has to have a single subject. What does that mean? That means that if it says more playground equipment at the park, it can't also deal with a parking lot. It can't deal with trash pickup. It can't deal with other areas. Just that. So what this is this saying that it wants citizen-initiated ballot measures to also follow that same policy. That it only has one subject and only deals with that one subject matter.
Okay.
Proposition 130, another constitutional amendment. This is going to give the legislature more power to set certain property tax exemptions and qualifications rather than letting the Constitution decide that. So this is giving the legislature more power on property tax exemptions.
All right, 130 is to give legislature more power in determining property taxes.
Correct. Okay, then we have Proposition 131. This one it creates the office of lieutenant governor. So a lot of states have lieutenant governor. Arizona is kind of different in the fact that we do not. Right now, if anything happens to the governor, if there's a vacancy, the Secretary of State would take command in the role of governor. So they want to have a lieutenant governor. And there's still pros and cons of that.
What's interesting, I haven't heard much about this measure. That I think this just, maybe some may view it as a formality, that it would, kind of just get incorporated. But I just simply haven't heard anything much about this.
Yeah, this one kind of snuck past me too. But yeah, I hear different arguments for it,
But I would just say, and we'll move on. I can only imagine this, because the scene that part of it was the lieutenant governor and the governor will run on the same ticket.
Right.
It will help prevent, leadership of the state switching parties.
Yes. Correct.
Got it.
All right, and so we have Prop 132. This is another constitutional amendment. This requires a 3/5 supermajority vote to pass a ballot initiative that has to do anything with taxes, approving taxes. So currently, I believe it just requires a simple majority. So that's 51%. So they just want to make it harder to put things on the ballot that increase taxes. Prop 209, so the proposition, the 200s are going to be citizen initiatives. So this is things that we as voters can put on the ballot or have put on the ballot. So this it limits interest rates for debt from healthcare services, and it's going to increase the value on certain property and earnings that are exempt from debt collections. We have Prop 211, another citizen initiative. This goes to combat dark money. This requires independent expenditures of more than $50,000 on a statewide campaign or $25,000 on a local campaign to disclose the names of all sources who contributed $5,000 or more. So they just want to see more transparency, more accountability in politics. 308, Proposition 308. So this is a legislative referral. This means that the legislature actually put this on the ballot. This repeals Proposition 300 to allow in-state tuition for non-citizen residents. That means if students who were not born here, they will have to pay out-of-state tuition to go to college in Arizona. Or if they are born here but they're not, legal citizens, they will have to pay out-of-state tuition.
So currently, if they were not born here or not recognized as a legal citizen, they do qualify for in-state tuition, and they're looking to undo that?
Correct. Thank you for that. Yeah, to clarify, right now they qualify for in-state tuition. This would undo that, and so they would not, and they would have to pay out-of-state tuition prices. Prop 309 is another legislative referral. This requires a date of birth and voter identification number for all mail-in ballots, and it also eliminates the 2-document alternative for photo ID for in-person voting. So right now, when we fill out our green affidavit, we have to put our signature and we put our phone number and the date. What the legislature is asking that we also put our date of birth and our voter identification number. Now, the voter identification number is going to be on our voter identification card, or generally you have to go to the county website to get that information. Secondly, they're asking to eliminate the 2-document alternative. So as it stands right now, if I go to the polling location and let's say I don't have a state ID, I could have a photo ID, maybe a school ID with a photo ID, and maybe 2 utility bills, and that will qualify me to vote and cast a ballot. The legislature is saying they want to do away with that and make it where unless you have a state-issued ID, you will not be able to vote. So that's
got it. So I'm gonna go ahead and call it out. This sounds like a voting measure that would make it more difficult for people to vote, because if you got to put your date of birth on the green envelope, which is transparent as it passes through the mail, that's just one more piece of personal information that a scammer or anyone else would be able to capture. We already are kind of concerned with identification theft, so now they're asking us to put our date of birth on the outside of our envelope, correct? And then the voter identification number, which I don't think many people know what that number is, but don't have it readily available. And just one more hurdle for someone to cast their legitimate ballot. And then I guess the last thing I'll say, just kind of calling out eliminating the 2-document alternative. Again, this just sounds like, to my ears, one more obstacle that will get people engaged in the voting process. And I think many will attest that it's challenging enough as it is. Prop 310.
Okay, yeah. Then we got Prop. And before I go through Prop 310, I just wanted to say that if you go to our website, azcleanelections.gov, we have a ID quiz and an ID list, and it will basically tell you what you need to bring to the voting location to vote. So it has like a little quiz you can take. So if you don't have ID, you don't check that, check this and this, and they'll kind of take you down a pathway of what you need to bring there. So check out the website, azcleanelections.gov, if you have any questions about, if your ID is proper. Okay, Prop 310. This is another legislative referral. This creates a 0.1% sales tax for 20 years to fund Arizona's fire districts. Arizona has water districts, we have school districts, we have hospital districts, we also have fire districts, and this just goes for their funding. Mm-hmm. And these are some other initiatives. I believe these were wrapped up into the propositions, but you can find out more information on these propositions if you go to the Secretary of State's website. On the Secretary of State's website, they also have arguments for and against these propositions, and they'll also show you what corporations or interest groups or people support the proposition, so you can kind of gauge on whether it's right for you or not to vote, yes or no. All right, where can I vote? So this is going to be a big question. That's what I'll be doing tomorrow, is telling people where they can go to their closest voting center or polling location. So you can go to our website, azcleanelections.gov, my voting dashboard. If you go to that website, put in your address, go where to vote, it will tell you where to vote on election day. There's also a little Dropbox thing there too if you want to locate a Dropbox in your area, but it'll have it starts with the closest site and it works its way down. So you can go to our website, Maricopa County. You can also go to beballotready.vote. Their website also has a place where you can find out voting locations. What I will say is if you're looking for drop boxes, I think that their website is a little bit more cleaner as far as how it puts out the drop box locations. But as far as election day voting, either one of these websites would be excellent.
And I think it's important to point out, so both of those websites will service Maricopa County. But if you live outside of Maricopa County, you may need to rely on AZ Clean Elections or your local county's website for that information.
Correct. And we also have a county contact on our website that you go look up, and we put you in touch with the elections department in each county.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the slide is in here. Okay. Yeah. So on that, the quiz I was telling you about. So list 1 would be, a state ID. That's all you would need to vote, right? List 2 is an ID that has your photograph and has your name and address. But you need 2 things with your name and address on it, but at least 1 photo ID. And then, or you can mix and match them. So, but just go to the website and take the quiz just to be sure. What is a sufficient ID? That means state Arizona driver's license, non-operating like an ID card, state ID card, a tribal enrollment card or other ID from the tribes, or a valid United States, state, or local government issued identification. But the key point is that the ID has to have your picture and address on it.
Picture and address.
Correct. Where can you check your ballot? So after you've cast your ballot, it's not, it doesn't just dissipate into thin air. It's still there and it's been counted. Where you go check that at is arizona.vote. It has some other information that you can do on there, but at this point, you're going to go, that's where you go to check to see if your ballot was counted. What else I want to say about this is the first report or official reports of the election results are going to be at 8:00 on Tuesday night. What those are, or the majority of those, are going to be the early ballots that they've been counting. They stopped, you're ready for election day, but it won't be the full count. So the full count won't be officially ready until about a week or 20 days out when the Secretary of State releases the final canvass. So at that point, you will have all the official results. So you're not going to get the results the next day. It could take some time, is what I'm trying to say. So give us some time. They have the people at the county are tabulating millions and millions of ballots.
Right. But Arizona.vote will be the place to go to check to see if and when your vote was counted.
Correct. And and I should say, if you were given a provisional ballot for any reason, that is where you also can check the status of your provisional ballot. And if you are given a provisional ballot, just remember that it is something that you have to do in order for them to make your vote count. So generally, we're given provisional ballots if we're like in the wrong precinct or if our address isn't lined up. We have to correct that before our vote can count. Again, election results. We wait about a week or to 20 days after the election for the full canvass. The canvass means that all the precincts and vote centers report back to the county. All the counties tabulate all their votes, and then they send them up to the Secretary of State. The Secretary of State releases the official canvass on their website, and you can see all the tabulations and votes results from every precinct, district, and county. Resources. We don't have a lot of resources, but we do have resources in Arizona. So I've already talked about beballotready.vote. I've already talked about Arizona.vote. Check to see if your ballot was counted. azcounties.org is where you go to look for the county candidates on your ballot. They only have the candidates for the primary on there, but you can still use that to see, who's on your ballot if you want to find out more information about them. The Arizona Secretary of State's website, azsos.gov. tons of election information on there. We have the irc.az.gov. That's the Independent Redistricting Commission. 2021, we had our districts redistrict. So you may be in a different district. You may have different candidates. If you want to see the lines of your district and the boundaries, you go to that website to look at that information. azcourts.gov, that's where you find information on the judicial performance evaluation. azcourts.gov/JPR to be exact. azcleanelections.gov. I always tell people, if you don't know anything, if you just got off a bus, you registered to vote, but you don't know nothing about voting, go to azcleanelections.gov. You go to our voter dashboard, put in your address, and it'll tell you everything you need to know about voting in your district, and it's pretty personalized to you in your area. And lastly on here, if you're in Pima or Tucson, this is where you would go, and it's kind of like beballotready.vote. But if you just go to recorder.pima.gov, you'll find information on voting there. Accessibility. So as far as accessibility goes, all the polling locations are going to have accessible voting devices. They're going to be ADA compliant. There are going to be resources there for deaf, blind, and hard of hearing individuals. They have alternative format ballots that includes Braille and large print. They're like the size of posters. There's special election boards. It's probably too late to call them now, but if you know anyone that's in a hospice or they're bedridden, they can't get out and vote, the counties will actually send someone to their home and assist them in voting and help them cast their ballot. Another thing is voters have the right to bring anyone of their choosing into their polling location with them. So whether you have a disability or not, you can bring someone. If you feel comfortable with bringing someone with you, you have that right. If you do have a concern, if you're disabled or not, you should immediately contact your county recorder's office or your county elections department directly, because they're going to be the ones to be able to quickly rectify or identify the problem. We can go to the next slide. All right, so I got some more contact information if you have any concerns. So if there's any misinformation or anything strange that you see happening with elections, you can call the Secretary of State's office at 1-877-THE-VOTE, or you could actually go to their website, elections@azsos.gov. Another is the election. If you have any election-related complaints, you can contact the Arizona Attorney General's office. Their website is there. That's azag.gov/criminal/EIU. I'll put these down there. Or you can just go to the azag.gov website, election complaint. Lastly, contact your county election department. If you see anything funny, you feel like somebody's been disenfranchised or someone's right has been infringed upon, I would start with your county elections department and then contact the Secretary of State and potentially the AG's office.
Right. Yeah. And if I can add, if anyone experiences any challenges, don't get discouraged. Don't feel, disenfranchised is literally the word, but don't walk away. You can still fill out, you should ask for a provisional ballot. So if there's some information that can validate your identity, you can ask for a provisional ballot, which you can fill out. You can fill out the ballot, and they'll make some record that you have, I believe it's 5 days to cure your ballot.
Yep.
So maybe they got your address wrong, maybe they got your name misspelled, something to that effect. You can ask for a provisional ballot, fill it out, and then you have, I believe the number is 5 days to cure it, meaning like you can go get some other supporting documentation, proof of address, or whatever the cause is that they said you could not fill out your ballot. You have a certain period of time to rectify that. And beyond that, if that doesn't, kind of satisfy you, then reach out to these resources, 1-877-THE-VOTE, or call 1-877-THE-VOTE or azag.gov. Do not walk away from the ballot. Do not walk away from your voting place without casting your ballot under any circumstances.
That's correct. Thank you for that, Jerry, for driving that home. Yeah, if you have any kind of issues, do not get out of that line. Make sure you vote your provisional. And like Jerry just said, basically, then you go about and contacting the proper people to help in your situation. You can check that provisional ballot at arizona.vote. So you can check to ensure that it was cast and it is making its way, and being processed. All right, our resources. So Clean Elections, we have resources of our own. We have our voter education guide, which goes out to every registered voter's home in the state of Arizona. What does it have in it? It has state and legislative candidates in it. It also is going to have county contact, so contact information for all the 15 counties in Arizona. We have our My Voting dashboard. That's like ground zero if you want voting information, election information. information on how to contact your candidates or what's going to be on your ballot. Our debates, we have debates in all 30 legislative districts with opponents. We have statewide debates for state offices. And what I like to tell people about debates is I don't know if anyone else has done this, but if you watch the candidate that you had planned to vote for until you heard them talk, and then you decided you're going to vote for somebody else. So make sure you check out these debates because you don't know how your candidate is going to respond to certain questions and things like that until you see them live in action. So I really try to point out the debates are good sources of information. Do you want to say something, Jared?
No, that's fine.
Okay. We also have a candidate compass tool. This tool, if you put in your beliefs and your opinions about certain issues, it will match you with a legislator or a state official that shares those beliefs, kind of help you with voting and things like that. We have our ID at the polls quiz. If you don't know if you have the proper ID, please take a look at this quiz. It'll help you out, or you can use it to help someone else out who may not know if they have the proper ID. And lastly, our website, azcleanelections.gov. Tons of information. We have an election glossary on there, all kinds of stuff. And if you're interested in running for office, come look us up too, azcleanelections.gov, and go on to run for office. We have lots of information on how you could do that and become a clean candidate.
All right. Thank you so much, Avery. I really can't thank you enough for taking the time to share that information with us. We all three of us recognize the importance of everyone going out there and doing their civic duty. These are our leaders, whether we like it or not. And I sure much rather kind of follow a leader that I had some sort of influence in selecting.
Absolutely.
Just going to look if we have any questions from the audience. We got a couple, and I'll just get those answered. Again, if you are out there, if you got questions, feel free to drop them. We'll do our best to answer them while we got just a few minutes left in the broadcast. And this question comes from Thurston and Smith. How do you lobby to get a bill passed? I think both Avery and I have a little bit of experience with that. Yeah. We just presented in front of some of our state legislators a couple of weeks ago. But my answer to that would be look up your local representatives, and this, likelihood, I'm assuming you mean local. So look up your state representative. I'm sure ballotready.vote will have that information. Ballotpedia.org, I believe it is, will be another tool you can use. That way you can find out who your elected official is, their phone number, their email address will be available to you. So you can reach out and get an audience with them and have that conversation. But that would be my first suggestion. Avery, anything else?
Yeah, I would just add on to that. Say you can also find your elected official on our website at azcleanelections.gov, and it's called Find My Elected Official. But what I would say is, if you want to lobby a candidate or someone who's elected, you want to do that like about right now, because right now they're in this interim period. This is when you go do it, because if you try to do it when they're in session, they're going to have so many people and appointments built up that you probably will miss the bus on that. So if you want to lobby them, you want to do it in their interim sessions. So between now and January is a good time to start, approaching them with some concerns. And the more the merrier. So the more people you can sign on to something or to go visit your elected official, the better.
Got it. And then we just got a comment from Nadia. Thank you for this information. It's greatly appreciated. Nadia, thank you for tuning in. We are here to serve the community and provide the information they need to make informed decisions. That's effectively what this program, Meet the Leaders, has been about for the past 2+ years. It's providing our community members with the information they need, and in this case, so you can make an informed decision on who you want to vote for. Avery, thanks so much. I don't see any other questions that we can address, but if you are tuned in, we gave you a plethora of websites. We'll just be ballotready.vote, azcleanelections.gov. Both of those will be your primary sources of information to look up, information on the candidates, their backgrounds, their beliefs, where to go vote, how to vote, things of that sort. We provided you with a phone number, 877-THE-VOTE. If you are experiencing any challenges or obstacles in casting your vote tomorrow, use that resource. I guess the one thing that we didn't talk about that I want to echo while we still got a few minutes left, do not mail in your ballot at this point. If you haven't filled out, if you tucked it in the envelope, do not drop it in the mail. You can drop it at a Dropbox, but do not put it in the mail. It is too late.
Correct.
Your vote. I think that cutoff was maybe a week ago, if I'm not mistaken. Regardless of the matter, do not mail your ballot. You can take it to a drop box and be ballot ready. The vote, the candidate, your dashboard within there will be able to tell you if your vote was counted. If you sign up for text message alerts, you can receive a text message to tell you that your vote was cast. I know Avery is familiar with that. I took a tour of, and our young professionals took a tour of the Maricopa County Tabulation Center. Walked through the entire process with our friend, County Recorder Stephen Richer. The process, despite what the media is telling you, let me not say that, despite what some people are telling you, this process is a secured one.
Absolutely.
Every voter is attached to a digital identification. Your ballots are unique. They're barcoded. The idea that they are being manufactured somewhere in Asia and then shipped over here is just not accurate. And the audit that took place in 2020 further validated the security of our election. So anyone trying to tell you it's not secure, they're not your friend. Anyone trying to tell you that your vote don't matter, they're looking to disenfranchise you. Tomorrow is the day. Tomorrow's election day. This is your chance to have your influence and your voice heard on who you want to lead you. One last thing I'll say, because I feel like I'm on a soapbox, but that's okay. Don't let your civic engagement stop on election day. As Avery mentioned, find out who your local official is. Do it now. Find out who they are. Sign in, reach out to them, get to know them, save their phone number, save their email address. You got to remain engaged throughout the process.
Absolutely.
With that said, Avery, if you want to give some closing thoughts, then I'll leave it to George Dean to close us out.
Yeah, no, I just really appreciate the opportunity to talk to the Greater Phoenix Urban League professionals. And I just want to say that with all of our voices, we have power. So we make our voices heard and we activate our political powers at the polls. We do it when we donate. We do it when we volunteer. We do it when we sign petitions. There's many ways that we could activate that. But tomorrow is the day that we activate it by using our vote and casting that ballot. So again, polls are open from 6 a.m. all the way to 7 p.m. If you are in line, you have the right to vote. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Avery. And President Dean, please close us out.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Avery. One of the things you didn't talk about that I know is also a part of y'all get involved with redistricting and so forth, and that I don't know if you make the final decision on the redistricting. Did you guys draw the maps?
No, we didn't draw the maps, but we did. They did reach out to us just to talk to us and about voters stuff and like different communities and stuff like that. But no, we weren't a part of that commission.
Okay, but that also is going to have a impact on how people are going to vote tomorrow in terms of what candidates in new districts and running against each other and so forth. So that's going to be important as well. But the last thing I would say in terms of the viewing audience out there, and that is vote. If you haven't voted already, be sure to go tomorrow and vote. This is a most very, very important election, and democracy is at stake and part of this election tomorrow. So, and if you want your voice to be heard, the way you get your voice heard is by voting. So be sure to vote and tell your neighbor, tell your next door neighbor, you tell your cousin, your niece, your nephew, your grandparents, and whoever it is that you know that's at least 18 years of age to make sure that they vote. And as you said, 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. tomorrow, November 8th. Make sure you vote. And with that, I'll say good night.
Go vote.